Everyone, this is Matt with the Fundamental Investing Institute. Thank you for tuning in today. We're going to make another video today about SMB cash flow. I think this is our third video that we've done on what we think is the proper measure to use. And we introduced the concept of normalized free cash flow. And in the previous video, we discussed normalized free cash flow when the business is at a steady state. So it's not growing, it's just more or less maintaining its level of earnings that it's doing in its current state. And when we are growing the business, depending on the business, now a lot of the mainstream businesses though that we're looking at in the SMB acquisition space, we're going to have to put more money into the business in one form or another. So from that definition that we provided in the previous video of normalized free cash flow in a steady state, and to revisit that, we define that as EBITDA normalized for any non-recurring revenues and expenses, and then we subtracted out a capital expenditure reserve for what we call maintenance CapEx, and that is just replacing the assets which the business currently owns. So from that definition, if we're growing the business, we have to take two additional expenditures into account. First is we have working capital. So these are real investments that we have to make. So as the business is growing, if we have receivables and we have inventory and we have payables, that difference between the current operating assets and the current operating liabilities, what we call net working capital, that is going to be generally a use of cash that is going to increase over time. So we have to have a provision for that. And then secondly, we have to subtract out an additional CapEx reserve for growth CapEx. And these are the additional assets that we're going to need to buy in order to support the growth. Now, we're going to get into, in subsequent videos, we're going to talk more about forecasting and how we think about forecasting growth and forecasting a lot of these line items. And it's very important to kind of look at historical relationships. We'll talk more about that, but for now, the real takeaway is that we're subtracting out these two additional line items from our previous definition of normalized free cash flow. We're subtracting out, in addition to subtracting out a reserve for maintenance CapEx, we're subtracting a reserve for growth CapEx, the additional fixed assets that we need to buy, and then we're subtracting out working capital changes that will be a use of cash over time. And that is going to give us the discretionary cash flow that will be available to service debt and to pay our equity holders if we have any, or pay ourselves as equity holders if we're the sole owner. So that's really how we think about cash flow. We think that's the only economically sound way to think about cash flow. And we'll talk more about this in subsequent videos. Thank you for tuning in.